welcome back. Today I will be making a French apple cake, and so I've actually made this cake many times before, so I'm excited to walk you guys through how to make it. It's actually pretty easy, so I hope you guys enjoy following along with me. But first we're going to start with the wet ingredients, so we're going to put in 1 stick of butter, and so I'm actually using vegan butter today, and that's because my brother and his girlfriend are dairy-free. It seems like they're always on a different dietary kick, so right now we're using vegan butter because they're always my taste testers, and so I've actually made this with vegan butter before. The only difference is the fact that it doesn't brown as well, but it tastes perfectly fine in the cake. So it's 1 stick of butter, and then it is a 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. And I'm going to whisk it for about 3 minutes, just so it's light and fluffy. Okay, so now that the butter is light and fluffy, I'm going to add in 2 eggs. I'm going to try to do 1 at a time and just combine it slowly. Okay, once that's combined, I'm just going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract and just mix it until it's combined. Now that my wet ingredients are combined, we're going to combine the dry ingredients, and as I mentioned, this recipe is super easy. So it's just 1 cup of flour and then a 1/4 teaspoon salt and then a teaspoon of baking powder. So you want to mix that together in a separate bowl just to make sure that there are no lumps. Now we're going to add it into the wet mixture. I'm just going to put in about half of the dry ingredients to start with. Okay, so the batter came together very nicely. Now we're going to add in 2 apples. So I like to use 1 Granny Smith apple and then 1 Honeycrisp apple. And so my trick is get a couple apples and try a few different ones. Make sure they taste good. So apples can either be more bitter, or they could be more sweet. They could have a high water content. So I actually had to go through 2 Granny Smith apples to get one that I thought would taste good. And so I tend to get larger Granny Smith apples and smaller Honeycrisp apples because I personally like the more tart apples. But you could do 2 Honeycrisp apples and make it a really sweet, sugary cake, or you could just use Granny Smith apples and it'll taste more of like your traditional apple pie. But that's just my take on it. So I'm going to add a little bit in at a time, and then I think I'm going to try mixing it in by hand. So I personally like my cake to be a little more apple heavy, so I put in the 2 apples, but I'm not loving the ratio, so I'm going to put in about another 1/4 of a Granny Smith apple, just so that way when you bite into the cake you get majority apple. Alright, so now we need to prepare our cake pan. We're using a springform pan. This one's either a 7 or 8 inch pan, and I suggest using 1 size up. I just couldn't find the base of mine for my larger pan, but this will just make a taller, denser cake, so it's totally fine. But what we need to do is butter the bottom of the tin, and then we need to add in parchment. So I think something that people always have questions on or struggle with is just getting the perfect circle to fit in your springform pan. So what I do, I'll just show you my trick. So we're just gonna fold it many times. So keep folding it in half over and over again, and then once you get to where it's a smaller square, you're just gonna bring 1 side over. So just keep doing that. And make sure you're keeping the tip very pointed. Just be careful with that. Alright, so that should be fine. It's pretty small, and now what we're going to do is measure from the center of the pan outwards, and then we're going to cut right on the edge, and if I did it right, it should be a perfect circle, or closer to a circle. moment of truth. So it looks like a circle. Let's see if it fits. So mine's just a little too big. So what you can do, if it's not too annoying or too painstakingly, you're just gonna fold it back up and just cut a little more off the edge. All right. We're just gonna cut a little more off the edge. They always say measure twice, cut once, but I measured once, cut twice, so that's okay. Again, it's a circle. There we go. And this time it fits much better in the bottom of my pan. But you still do need to butter it. I actually like to butter the tin first, then place the parchment, then butter the outsides. So I just use a whole stick of butter to do this. Alrighty, going to add in our parchment paper now. Perfect. And now time to add in the cake. Just level it off so it's nice and flat. Alright, so once it is completely leveled off in your pan, you're going to add about a tablespoon of granulated sugar to the top. I like this because it helps it brown, especially with using the vegan butter. It doesn't brown as well, so it can look undercooked. So you just add the sugar to the top either way. So I said about a tablespoon, and we're just going to coat it. We might have to use more. So this is what the final cake will look like. We're going to put it in the oven for 40 minutes. It is currently preheated to 350. I'm going to check it at 35 minutes just because this oven cooks things much faster. So in the oven she goes. Alright, so my 35-minute timer just went off. It's supposed to be in there for 40 minutes, but I'm checking it at 35 minutes, just to be safe. So let's take a peek. It's super brown. Smells good. Let's poke it with a fork to see if it's done. Honestly, I have no idea. It's hard because with the fruit, it's hard to tell if it's just the fruit being juicy or if the cake isn't fully done. Okay, I'm gonna put it back in there for another 2 minutes just to be safe because I think it is a little underdone. All right. Okay, so the timer just went off. We're gonna check it now. Let's see. Yeah, I would say it's done. All right, probably could have left it in there at 35 minutes, but now it is 100% done. I'm gonna let it sit and cool for about 10 minutes, and then I'll take it out of the springform pan, let it continue cooling, and then once it's completely cool, going to cover the top in powdered sugar. So, see you in a few minutes. All right, well, I was going to say we're off to just, this cake's going great, but you know how in the beginning I said my brother and his girlfriend were on a non-dairy kick? They're on a vegan kick. So this cake isn't vegan for any of you who are trying to make it for people who are eating vegan, not the cake for you. But this cake is beautiful. So now that I took it out of the springform pan, all right, you guys, this cake is truly gorgeous. Now I remember why I love it so much. Super easy. I'm going to top it with some powdered sugar. I'm super lazy and I'm just doing it right out of the box. I'm gonna stick it in the sifter. So just do this right over your cake. All right. And honestly, you can use the amount of powdered sugar that you want. I think for me, I really only did a very, very, very light dusting just because I think that looks better. So can't wait to bite into this. I will be the only one trying this on the taste tester crew today, but that is quite all right. I'm not gonna let them break their vegan streak just for my cake. But thank you all for joining me, and I will see you next time.